The rain hammered against the windows of Miller's diner at 11 o'clock at night, and Odessa Fontaine had exactly $4.37 to her name when the bell above the door jingled one last time before closing. She almost told him they were shutting down. The words were right there on her tongue, tired and ready to send this stranger back out into the storm. But something about the way he stood in the doorway stopped her, soaked through, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow in a way that reminded her too much of her own reflection some mornings. He was an older man, maybe 60, wearing a coat that had clearly seen better decades, and he was shivering so hard his teeth clicked together like dice in a cup. "We're about to close," she said gently, "but sit down. I'll get you something hot." He protested weakly, said he didn't have much money, maybe just enough for coffee. Odessa waved him toward a booth by the window anyway. She had been on her feet since 6 that morning, her back screaming, her tip jar holding barely enough to cover the bus fare home, let alone the mounting pile of bills waiting for her in a shoebox under her bed. Her son Marcus was 8 years old and growing out of his shoes every few months, and she hadn't bought herself new clothes in over a year. But none of that mattered in this moment. There was a hungry man in front of her, and she had been raised by a grandmother who always said that kindness costs nothing but means everything. She brought him a bowl of vegetable soup, a plate of meatloaf that was technically supposed to be thrown out at closing, and a full pot of coffee. When he tried to pay, she quietly told the kitchen to mark it as a mistake on the register. She used $2 of her own tip money to cover the difference. It wasn't much. It wasn't a grand gesture. But for a man who hadn't eaten in almost 2 days, it was everything. If this story is moving you already, take a second right now to like this video, drop a comment telling us you believe in kindness and second chances, share it with someone who needs a reminder that good still exists in this world, and subscribe to Hope and Wisdom so you never miss a story like this one. The man ate slowly, like someone relearning how to enjoy something simple. His name, he told her, was Alastair Whitlock. He didn't say much else. He watched her work, how she smiled at every customer despite her exhaustion, how she stayed 20 minutes past closing to make sure he finished his meal in peace, how she waved off his thanks like it was nothing at all. Before he left, he asked for her name. She told him. He nodded, thanked her again, and disappeared into the rain-soaked night without another word. Odessa thought nothing more of it. Life moved on the way it always did, rent due, groceries needed, Marcus needing new sneakers for school. She worked double shifts, came home aching, and fell asleep some nights still in her uniform. Weeks passed. The diner stayed the same, the tip stayed thin, and the shoebox under her bed stayed full of unpaid notices. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon under a bright and ordinary sky, a black car pulled up outside Miller's diner. 2 men in suits stepped out, and behind them came Alastair Whitlock, except this time, he wasn't wearing a soaked, tattered coat. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, his silver hair combed neatly, his presence commanding the kind of respect that made the whole diner go quiet. Odessa nearly dropped the tray in her hands. She recognized his face immediately, but something about him now felt different, larger than life. One of the regulars whispered his name under her breath in disbelief, Whitlock. As in Whitlock Industries. As in the man who had quietly built one of the largest logistics and shipping empires on the East Coast, a man who valued privacy so fiercely that photographs of him were almost impossible to find. He walked straight to Odessa, and for a moment the entire diner seemed to hold its breath. He explained, gently and without pride, that on the night she fed him, he had just lost his company's biggest contract, buried his wife of 31 years only days before, and had walked out into the storm that night with every intention of never going home again. He had nothing left, he said, no hope, no reason to keep going. But a tired waitress with kind eyes had looked at a broken stranger and seen a human being worth feeding, worth caring for, worth saving. That single bowl of soup, he told her, had reminded him that the world still had good in it, and that realization alone had pulled him back from the edge of the darkest decision of his life. He told her he wasn't there for a meal this time. He was there to change her life the way she had changed his. He offered to pay off every bill in that shoebox, to cover Marcus's education from that day through college, and to offer Odessa a management position at one of his company's community centers, work with real stability, real growth, and a real future for her and her son. Tears streamed down Odessa's face as she stood there, uniform stained with coffee, hands trembling around the tray she still hadn't set down. She had given a stranger a bowl of soup out of simple human decency, never expecting anything in return, and that quiet act of kindness had rippled back into her life in a way she could never have imagined. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. It truly means the world to us and helps this message of kindness reach more people who need it. And before we go, if you're watching this, do us one small favor, comment the word kindness below, just so we know you made it to the end and that this story reached you. Odessa Fontaine never set out to be anyone's miracle. She just believed, the way her grandmother taught her, that every person deserves warmth on a cold night. And sometimes, the smallest act of grace comes back around in ways big enough to change a life forever.